over the last few years has been in relation to education and skills.
Right.
If you look at what has been done for the last few years, was to first increase the budget that goes into education, skills, and all of that. And of course, there's still challenges. And from time to time, government obviously looks at reviewing the curriculum content, and based also on what are the pressing need that we have. I was reading an interesting article on June 16, 1976, that says in Soweto at the time there were about 10 high schools in 1976. And if you look at what's happening now, you've got more than 100 high schools only in Soweto.
Yeah.
At the time, you had no fewer than 1,000 black students going into what would have been referred to as historically white institutions. And I think the situation has drastically improved to now. And in fact, the president's major priority is around ensuring that we broaden access to education, because we believe that through education, you will be able to empower young people to be able to make, a bigger difference. And one of the things which we've been attending to, recently, has been to ensure that those young people who are graduates are therefore integrated into the workforce, or they are empowered to be able to pursue entrepreneurship. And this is one of the questions I always ask university vice chancellors all the time when I meet with them, as to how do we train people, give them degrees and all of that, and then we expect those people not to be able to be self-sufficient. And therefore I think that there has not been any progress made which can be equaled to the progress that has been made for the last 10 years in terms of education in our country.
Right, coming up, there's a difference between management and leadership, and DM is talking about leadership, or will be talking about leadership. There's something that I read, actually, DM, and this is a book by John Maxwell. I think it's the 10 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader, if I'm not mistaken. That's the title of the book. And in that book, he mentions that if you think you are leading and nobody's following you, then you're only taking a walk. And we'll explore that coming up just now in a short bit. Let's take Tsepo from Klerksdorp. Tsepo? T-Man. Vertel ka ntate. Ke thabela ho utlwa ho wena Tsepo.
Dumela Tsepo. Re tsogile nna le kae? Re tlhwetse.
Potso ya hao e reng Tsepo? Tsepo ke tlo kopa hore e re go disturbenyana hanyane Tsepo, ke tlo kopa hore o buela hodimo. Even my producers let me know that signal I kry-ang on the desk is not good. Ke tlo kopa o buelle hodimonyana hanyane Tsepo. A utlwe. Ke a utlwa, yeah.
Hey. Okay.
Tsepo, thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate it. Relevant Life FM, thank you so much for your participation rather in this show this evening. 0800 142 446 DM. Let's take another one.
Okay.
Let's line them up. At least we'll take 3 at a time, and then we can just go back to the questions after that. Let's chat to Auntie Chichi. Is on the okay. I've been told Auntie Chichi's gone. All right. Okay. All right. This was the only person that was lined up. Okay, we can go back to those questions, DM.
I think firstly, I mean, we have primarily for young people, we've got the National Youth Development Agency, and of course there are challenges. But I think that what we've seen over the last 3-4 years has been progress that has been made by the National Youth Development Agency in essentially reaching out to more and more young people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I implore young people is to go into the NYDA branches wherever they are. We've got 14 countrywide. We'll be opening 2 more in the next 2 years or so. If it's about scholarships, if it's about support for their businesses, if it's about wanting to be on the unemployment database, if it's about career guidance, business support, go to your NYDA office. One of the big fights that the NYDA is championing is to ensure that government increases the budget of the NYDA so that we're able to expand the services that the NYDA is providing to our communities. And what I want to emphasize is that we must not take a situation wherein people are given services on the basis of their political parties or political affiliations or factions within a political party. As we must challenge that. We must make sure that we expose any public servant who refuses to give anyone service on the basis of their political affiliation or their race or anything of the sort. That is unacceptable. And if we begin to talk more about it and if we expose it, we believe that it will stop. But beyond the NYDA, we have the IDC, the National Empowerment Fund, which all of those institutions have dedicated billions of rands directed towards supporting businesses. The Presidential Working Group on youth is intended to consolidate all of government's effort, focusing on youth intervention. And I must say that part of our bigger priority is to ensure that we get young people employed, is to ensure that we get young people's businesses supported, because through youth entrepreneurship, we can be able to meet the 11 million target that we've set in the NDP around youth employment. But I think also more than that, part of the things that we want to be and which we'll be announcing in the next few months or so is a revised framework on national youth service, where we will get millions of young people dedicated towards services towards their community, but in the process getting skills, and also in the process a sense of national solidarity, social cohesion, but I think more importantly, getting young people belonging or a sense of belonging to their own country.
Coming up, you probably heard about this, or maybe let me ask you if you've heard about it. Have you heard about Life and Legacy of O.R. Tambo? It's just a line that I've read actually, but we're going to be joining more in that coming up now shortly. 0800 142 446 is on 14 minutes just before the hour, 7 o'clock. Let's take a caller quickly. I think we've got lined up from Honamo Gauteng. In fact, I'm very happy because because I'm realize or Dimana to Funa Lokoka, understand? So, I give it in Geranyana, Tifuana, what I say, yeah, give it a recipe because I'm totally I'm cool, understand? This is which is into Lerato. Lerato's calling from TUT. I'm very excited to see somebody from TUT calling in that DM. Lerato, good evening to you. How's it, Lerato? I'm good, thank you. I'm good. DM is listening. What is your question or comment? Lerato? Issue the phone.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right, Lerato, we've already addressed that, but I think towards the end, we'll jump back to it. For just to give it a bit more meat there. But Moyo, thank you so much for calling in, Lerato, calling from TUT. And now we're going to be chatting to Chi Chi. Chi Chi is back on the line. And apologies for that sound, really. We're just pushing a couple of things around just to make sure you get clear signal from us on the side. So apologies for that. It's a live broadcast, by the way. These things happen. Thank you so much, Musoto Stone, being on the desk, doing a fantastic job there. Let's chat to Chi Chi. Chi Chi is back on the line. If we can patch Chi Chi through, let's hear what Chi Chi has got to say. Good evening to you, Chi Chi. Is Chi Chi on the line? I think we've lost the Chi Chi then. All right, maybe let's quickly, maybe DM, if you want to touch again on that. Gabono got it's a bit of a problem, but people worried about, and you can't blame them really, because we have to cover everybody, like you've said with the opening statement. People are worried about the rural areas, really.
Look. I mean, I think we obviously have to emphasize with our colleagues in government that we probably need to do more. And I think sometimes we assume that because people bako Soshanguve, bako Mamelodi and all of that, bako Deep Slow, therefore they are within reach of certain government services. And sometimes that's not the case. And that's why we have to improve the extending services to all those people. So so that rural areas does not forget people who may be within an urban setup, but their conditions are not better off compared to those who are in the rural areas. So I think that's one of the things that we will have to, to emphasize. But if you look at what government's focus in terms of imbizos has been to go to move away from the cities and to go to areas where people are. And I really want to urge young people, if you utlabare khonale imbizo ko Soshanguve or ko Matatiele or ko Nzuza Hill or wherever, just go there, raise your voice, be heard, and ensure that you are part of raising whatever needs, concerns and demands that you have towards your own government. But even beyond that, let's even go to our local government. Let's go to our councillors. Let's go to our ward committees and say to them, we want this particular service, and we believe that government provides that service to us.
There we go. 10 minutes before 7 o'clock. In fact, DM, having said that, let me just say thank you so much to the guys. Bako Bishu and Bako Siki. That's where we were with the previous Imbizos there, and the turnout was quite good. And thank you so much. In fact, I saw a lot of young people there who participated actually in these Imbizos, and that's exactly what you're calling for. Exactly. And we really appreciate that. 0800 142 446. Let's get into it, because Kiabona eno nako kare remeka pefu. Yeah, I want us to talk about something that you're very passionate about, DM, and I share the same feeling as well. It's issues that's got to do with leadership. But when I stretch at DM, and I've heard you mentioning true leadership. Tell us about that.
Look, I mean, I really think that firstly, the world, and historically, young people have been at the center of change in whatever environment that they find themselves in. And there's been a sense that, especially post 1994, wherein a lot of us, meaning we as young people, tended to somewhat externalize leadership, responsibility in other people to lead within the spaces wherein we find ourselves. Yes, for instance, the notion and concept of fees must fall, and there's for as long as you can think about, especially young blacks, people have been to universities or to TVET colleges or whatever sense of leadership. But I think that now more than ever, with the National Development Plan in place, with a whole range of discourse about where the country should be going, with a whole range of discontent, but also with a whole range of, positivity about the prospect of, where the country needs to be going. I strongly believe that young people need to, really be taking things into their own hands. And when I say that, I'm not suggesting, and in fact, I'm one of those people who've strongly spoken out against, young people resorting to violence, disruption of public property, or young people thinking that to be rude,
it's a solution.
To be really disrespectful, to disregard other people, to be abusive to other people, is actually leadership. Because I think we've also seen that, people think that, to be radical and militant, you go to swear at people and all of that. That's not leadership. That's not, it doesn't take, in my view, the country forward. I think that, we need to be inculcating a sense in as many young people as possible, that says, all right, what are the big challenges that confronts our country, and how do we take, our country forward within that context? I mean, historically, the bigger vision. I mean, 2 days ago, we're celebrating or observing or commemorating Nelson Mandela Day, and one of the things that Nelson Mandela and those who fought for our liberation always advanced, for instance, is a non-racist, non-sexist, democratic South Africa is a country where we all belong. It's a country where we share its prosperity and all of that. Do we have that? If we don't, what are the blockages? What are the challenges? And how do we as young people get to for race, gender, color, creed, and all of that? How do we get together and forge, some collective vision which will take us, forward? And I think that, those are the kind of discourse that we as the current generation have to be involved into. It's quite easy for someone to say, look, Mandela sold out, they sold the land and all of that, without appreciating the conditions with which they found themselves and the kind of future that they have handed over to us, and a future that says, look, you are now in the driving seat as the youth of 2017. And what is it that you choose to do being in the driving seat by taking this country forward? And that's the sense of leadership that I think we really need to be thinking about, not of pointing fingers, but of taking responsibility and taking action and ensuring that through that action, we begin to bring about change within the spaces where we find ourselves.
I'll tell you this, O.R. Tambo was the longest ever serving president of the ANC, from 1969 to about 1991. And he was described by President Jacob Zuma as a solution-oriented leader who always sought to move forward on the basis of building consciousness. So ask yourself that question, are you in line with that? And this is something that it's a challenge from me to you. Let's take a caller quickly. Partco from Edwell North. Good evening to you, Partco. Dumela Partco ke pela wena. Partco go confuse na le DM. We thoma ka Sesotho ntate we jike mo ke le Xhosa. Go for it.
Thetha Mfundeni.
Ndiabulela Tata, Ndiabulela Padko for your call. Calling all the way from Eliwell North and listening via a radio station called Takalani Community Radio. Thank you so much for the DM.
Just quickly, I'm aware that we've run out of time. Okay.
Do we have another caller? I beg your pardon with that. DM, let's take one more and then we'll on. Is it Chichi? Hi, Chichi.
Hi, Chichi.
All right. Thank you so much. It's actually Gigi. I recognize that voice.
Gigi.
One of the popular listeners on our shows as we do them. Thank you so much, G. I really appreciate it. I did promise you that we're going to come. We're working on it, Gigi. We're working on it. We will be there soon. Oh, there we go. So that's Gigi there. All right. DM, let's go back to Parker's questions, really.
Yes. I mean, just quickly, look, I mean, firstly, we must say that for anybody to get a government job, you don't have to pay anything. You don't have to, if you're a man or a woman, you don't have to sleep with anybody for you to get a government job. And I think, I mean, I can't emphasize this anymore. And I hear that it's even worse in the private sector. I was watching some youth television show yesterday where young people are talking about their experiences where cash for jobs and they've become vulnerable. Obviously, government alone cannot be able to provide all the jobs that are needed, and that's why part of government's expenditure is geared towards stimulating private sector to be able to create jobs, and we're hoping that with the global economic turnover, the South Africa will also be able to experience the spin-offs, so that we're able to benefit from that and begin to create more jobs. I think that's what government is gearing more towards. Secondly, I agree with and I've addressed the point earlier on that we hard to ensure that we reach as many matriculants as possible, to give them as much information as possible. And wherever they're listening, I urge them to apply now to whichever university that they want to apply to, or TVET college or community college, use whatever means that they're able to. And I'm sure that there has to be some municipality closer to them which can have information on what needs to be done if, they do not have access to whatever IT and agree with hardcore. Have to with this, we have to expose it, and we have to also expose those leaders whom we believe are corrupt. This government, and I think in particular in this term, has committed itself to deal with corruption in all its its manifestation. And I mean, corruption is not it's not a figment of our imagination. It is there, and not only corruption at the level of government, private sector corruption. People who entice police officers, government bureaucrats, and everybody else, with bribe in exchange for service, are themselves perpetuating corruption. So that's corruption at a small scale. There's also corruption at a bigger scale, which government is committed into dealing with it, and have set up institutions whose main focus with corruption. It confident that it's one of the things that we really have to deal with. And he's right that there are leaders that we look up to, and when all these things happen, then that in as much as the main trapped and corruption in entirety of government that is corrupt, and that there are leaders that we need to be emulating who are there in government, who are prepared and who are committed, and whose main mission is service to our people.
Coming up, DM, just before we wrap it up, I'd like you to maybe to just jump in and talk about the National Youth Policy 2015-2020. Let's take Lunga. Lunga being our last caller. Lunga calling all the way from Cape Town. Good evening to you, Lunga. More like that. Mm. Lunga, thank you so much to us.
And I think the points that we guys raising are related to the National Youth Policy. First, giving second chances, particularly those young people who are in correctional facilities, in prisons and all of that. I know there was a big story about some strippers who were sneaked into one of the jails. That's not our way of rehabilitating.
No, definitely not.
There are programs that have been put that are in place through the Department of Correctional Service, which are targeted at young people who are incarcerated, but they also have got access to education opportunities and a whole range of other things, and a way in which we can be able to integrate them back into societies. And there are discussions in government about whether correctional the philosophy of our rehabilitation and integration of offenders into communities, whether has that borne any fruits, because most young people who are offenders and are therefore put into jail are more likely to go back into jail than any other young person. So those are some of the things which we're looking at in government, and which is something that's raised quite strongly in the National Youth Policy 2020 in terms of what needs to be done. With regards to history, I mean, look, we have, I think, one of the, okay, let me put it this way. I think what has been done as part of the review of the history that was taught in the past, is quite progressive, because it includes now, the historical events which were intended to be wiped out from the memory of our country. And I think the big thing which we say in the National Youth Policy 2020 is that we want to see over time compulsory for all learners in our schools, because once we know where we come from, it means that there is no likelihood for us in repeating them. But I also want to encourage Lunga and many other young people to read about the history of our struggle, the histories of dispossession, the histories of colonization, the history of apartheid itself, and how ugly a system it was. Both black, white, Indian, and colored young people should be able to engage with the history that's there, so that we are not able, in any way repeating them. But in a nutshell, national youth police do deal with, or rather get young people into educational institutions, get young people skilled, get young people economically active, support their entrepreneurial initiative, but also deal with drugs and substance abuse. It's essentially a policy that mobilizes the whole of government to look at and focus on young people and make young people their priority.
Right. It's coming up to 10 minutes after 7 o'clock, and that's where we're going to leave it for this evening. But maybe before we do that, DM, we know that young people watch movies. We're into the arts mostly.
Yes.
And I was just thinking now as you're talking, maybe a bit of encouragement. You saw the movie Kalush.
Yes.
Just to inspire the young people out there, just to motivate them that, look, the future's ahead of us.
I would say to any and out in the movie can yourself a favor, go and show where folk come from. It's a movie that shows the selflessness of young people and the leadership role that young people's often that was determined to exterminate the seats that was to become the future. And I believe that it's a movie which will encourage the whole lot of us to not stand back of the people within our own surroundings. There is no one, be it political leaders who make rhetorical commitments and statements, there is no one who will take responsibility for changing your own life except you, Umundomusha. So I hope that young people will emulate the example of Kalushi for us to take this country forward.
In the president, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you again. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to everybody who's called in, from Lunga to Gigi Patko, El Rato, Auntie Tepo there, Lebu, Matlangu, and everybody that's trying to call in that couldn't get in. We'd like to say apologies. Next time we'll do it again. Don't worry. DM, you come here again.
Of course, I will be here.
There we go. No. DM will be here again. So pretty excited to do that. If you've missed out on the show, or maybe you'd like to tell your friends about the show, it's available on YouTube as well. You can go under a national development plan, and some of the videos that will come up, you'll see the DM's one is there as well. So go check it out. From myself, Karabalans to Stone, let me thank the producers on the other side. Kimosoto Stone on sound. Thank you so much, Mr. Stone, as well as Nontantlan Dawonde. She's got a funky hair. You can tell she's very youthful this evening. Thank you so much, Nontlanta, for the good work that you've done. And our colleague coming from the video department, making sure that this is seen on YouTube. Mr. G, Mr. GG, I don't know. There's so many names, but he's doing an incredible job. Thank you so much, Sam. Karabalant signing off. It's the NDP 2030. Our future. Make it work.